Okay, so hi everybody. Welcome along to another presentation. Today we're going to be looking at the practice of love and kindness, what it is and how to generate it. So we'll begin as we normally do by doing a short meditation. This meditation will be focused on the breath. It'll allow us to focus the mind and to relax the body. Then we'll say a few prayers together and then we'll begin the class. So please get comfortable in your seat. Allow your back to be straight and your shoulders to be relaxed. And you can keep your eyes open or close them. And being relaxed, let the body breathe itself. And with the body breathing itself, focus upon the movements that are taking place whenever you inhale or exhale the breath. And with the body relaxed and the mind focused, sharp, and present, it's very easy to imagine the presence of all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas above you. It's also quite easy to imagine that you're surrounded by all sentient beings, that your mother and father are sitting beside you, your friends are there, and many strangers and people you've had difficulties with. And acknowledging that we all have a wish to be happy and we all wish to be free from suffering and its causes. Decide to bring about for yourself and for others freedom from our difficult emotional states, freedom from the process of an uncontrolled rebirth, and freedom from anything that hinders deep satisfaction, deep happiness. The way to bring about this freedom is to rely upon others who have done that. And this means we can rely upon the Buddha, his spiritual community, and his teachings. So decide to do that. Decide to take refuge on behalf of all sentient beings and to cultivate this very, very precious mind called bodhicitta. And then join me in saying, I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened through the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So in response to this wish of ours to become fully awakened to benefit others, think that lights and nectars will pour out of the heart of the Buddha. They wash over you and over all the beings surrounding you. And being washed by this light and nectar, imagine that all obstructions, all negativities vanish. And all your good qualities become apparent. And upon the surface of all these good qualities is a wish that all beings have happiness in its causes, that they be free from suffering in its causes, that they have joy and abide in equanimity. So please join me in reciting the prayer of the four measureless thoughts, the four immeasurables, the four boundless thoughts. And say, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the vice of attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And once again, in response to our wishes, from the heart of the Buddha, lights and nectars pour forth. They wash over you and over all the beings surrounding you. And whatever obstacles and hindrances there might be to prevent these four boundless thoughts, well, they're just washed away. Mind retains its natural purity. And you imagine that you have these four boundless thoughts upon your own mind stream, and so does everybody else. You're being sort of happy and grateful that this has been accomplished. You recollect the field of merit above you, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and you say to them, reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since the beginning of this time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own and others' merits to the great enlightenment. So in response to this prayer of ours, think that merit has been accumulated and the mind has been purified. And you recollect that all phenomena are without or lack an independent nature and exist in mere name. So you prepare yourself to offer this world system, your body, speech, and mind, and your merits to accomplish a non-abiding enlightenment for the benefit of others. And so, this ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offering. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratnam Mandalakam Naryatayami. We've released the offering, and the Buddha accepts it with joy. And he looks down towards us and smiles. And we look up and we look into his eyes. And the Buddha's eyes are filled with bliss. We look into that bliss and we feel accepted and at ease. And in the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the hero and solitary realizers, the protectors, all these beings who surround the Buddha dissolve into light, which dissolves into the Buddha himself. And from the heart of the Buddha, an emanation of himself, a figure of light, leaves the heart area and moves through space and time and comes to abide above the crown of your head, facing in the same direction you are. The emanation descends, it enters the crown of your head, goes down through your body, and just rests just above your heart. The radiance of the Buddha's body increases, expanding, and filling your body and mind with light. The light goes out through the pores of your skin and begins to fill the 10 directions of space. And every sentient being that abides within space finds themselves to be utterly transformed into an enlightened state of being. No boundaries, no difference. Then from the 10 directions of space, the light begins to withdraw and it re-enters your heart. You may be able to hear yourself breathing. You can certainly feel yourself breathing. You're breathing normally and naturally, and you're sitting upon your seat. And you acknowledge that this meditation was one of imagination. But even so, it has imprinted the mind with a condition or cause for you to awaken and to become a Buddha and be able to effortlessly and spontaneously be of benefit to others. So acknowledge that that has taken place. And sort of smile and breathe in and exhale your breath through your mouth, and then allow your eyes to flutter open and move your body whichever way you'd like to until you feel quite present. Okay, so this is a course about love and kindness, and this is the material I've been relying upon. It's primarily focused around this book called In Praise of Great Compassion by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Venerable Thupten Chodron. Well, I've also relied upon the commentary of Nagarjuna's, also written by Venerable Thupten Chodron. And finally, Steps on the Path to Enlightenment. So these are the primary three sources, but then I've also relied upon other teachings I've had on the topic. And of course, some of these books will change as we go through the next 4 weeks. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about just briefly on equanimity as a basis for developing immeasurable loving kindness. Then we're going to talk mostly about the benefits of love. And finally, 5 reasons to generate love. So as we go through, we'll have places we can actually pause. And if you have questions, they're arising as we talk, please save them for that place there. And then we'll do a brief meditation. So let's begin and have a look at this first topic called impartiality or equanimity. So you can see what is said here. And of course, this is taken from Lamrim Chenmo by Lama Tsongkhapa. So he says, from the outset, establish an even-minded attitude, eliminating the bias which comes from attachment to some living beings and hostility to others. Otherwise, any love or compassion you feel will be biased. But you will never feel unbiased, affectionate love or compassion. So, cultivate impartiality. So, this impartiality or equanimity does not imply that all sentient beings are equal in all aspects. The idea of equality here or impartiality is that we are all the same in having this wish to be free from suffering and a wish to be happy. That's not easy to, I mean, although that is the case, it's not so easy to develop this impartiality because we have a natural way of categorizing people or living beings into three categories of friend, enemy, and stranger. And we grasp and hold on to these categories.
Eddie, don't forget to just stop this share every now and again for us.
Yeah, well, that's coming up. We'll do that later. So the idea here is, although we have this wish that others experience equanimity and loving kindness and compassion and so forth, the idea in the Mahayana practice is that one trains one's own mind to be impartial. You have loving kindness, to have this great compassion and so forth. So we're not trying to eliminate the categories of enemy, friend, and stranger. What we really are trying to do here, is to stop the bias towards friends, enemies, and strangers. So we keep the categories. They're not a problem, they're a conventionality. But the sort of grasping that we have of making these categories a bit more real than they actually are. Thinking that, friends are friends forever and enemies are enemies forever and strangers, well, they just don't matter. That's the sort of thing we need to change. The categories can stay the same. So the idea is to reduce our attitudes of hatred, attachment, and indifference to the categories of friend, enemy, and stranger. Now we want to have this as a foundation for the practice of loving kindness, compassion, empathic joy. So some of you might remember, so maybe a couple of months ago, I think was the last time I sort of taught on this platform, and we spoke about I think it was compassion then, but before that was equanimity. So please just sort of bear in mind that we need equanimity. If we don't develop that and have it as a foundation for our other practices, the mind basically stays the same, which is biased, the way we presently are. So we want to move away from that, from a biased sense of love, a biased sense of concern, to a more vaster approach. So that we can, in the intake, have a sense of concern, a sense of love for every living being, not just those that we're close to. Now, so this impartiality, this equanimity is important. So let's have a look now at just what do we mean by love and kindness. So we'll be expanding on this as we go through the next 4 weeks, but in brief, it's this wish that we have that others be happy and have its causes. That's it sort of in a nutshell. The thing is, you say how wonderful it would be if they, the they refers to everyone, every being with a consciousness. So it's a really immense type of love. And it's one thing to just say it, but that won't really have much effect on us. We've got to say, have the idea of they being very much like ourselves and those closest to us. So I remember one time, a number of years ago, one of our students, what can I say about it? She was sort of a little bit mixed up, didn't know what to do with herself and sort of making judgment calls that sort of led to more suffering for herself. And life was a little difficult. But then she became pregnant and that really freaked her out. So she wasn't sure whether to keep the baby or not. Anyway, she spoke to her guru, and the guru gave a really good answer to her. She said basically, you will know what to do. So what she did was she ended up keeping the baby, she was pregnant, she gave birth to the child and found it changed her life. So what she had was immense love for her child. And as soon as I heard about it, when she told me, I went, that's the love to have for everybody. So I see a number of women here, if you've given birth and know that love that you have for a child, there's your working basis. You know what that feels like. Now the trick is, or the little difficult thing, is to start expanding it, going, well, I know what that feels like. That means I have to feel this way to everyone. So in that way, I thought, wow, how lucky, how wonderful it is for women to actually know that, where for a guy like myself, who doesn't have a child, never had children, didn't have such a happy childhood, like, that's very hard, to sort of go, oh man, I don't know what that feels like. So for some of us, it's going to be much more difficult. For others, it's going to be a little easier. I'll just get back to our screen. Yes, so to take this idea and this great happiness you have for your child, and then wish that others would feel the same way, and actually know how to do it, have the causes for that happiness. His Holiness says in this book, In Praise of Great Compassion, he says, we use words to describe this kind of love, but it's difficult to understand and experience. To cultivate it from the depth of our hearts, understanding its benefits is a necessary first step. By understanding the advantages of cultivating great love and the disadvantages of not doing so, then our interest and enthusiasm to cultivate great love and compassion will increase, giving us the inner strength to actualize these qualities. So today we're going to really focus on this idea of the benefits of having this great love. And we'll begin with a quote from Nagarjuna, or something that's taken from one of Nagarjuna's quotes, where he says, Even offering 300 cooking pots of food 3 times a day does not match a portion of the merit in one instant of love. So I think this is great, isn't it? So imagine having one instant of love. So I see Shayla just put her head on her grandson's head and go, there you go. Having that sort of love, right? It's much more effective, much more meaningful, much more powerful than Shayla cooking 300 cooking pots of food every day and giving it out 3 times a day to 300 people or so. Right? So one of the ways, one of the reasons for why the merit is so great, of course, is because although giving food is wonderful, it's limited by the amount of food you can cook and the people you can offer it to, whereas the love is not. You can always love more than 300 people, right? And you'll always run out of food, but you don't have to run out of love. And so this energy that love can give you, well, it can really help you. I think anybody who's done a job that they love, or finds out how easier it is to do it, how much you like to do it. If you're engaged in an artistic pursuit that you love, it's very easy to want to do it, and you just get the enjoyment of doing it. And this, like love here, is really a mental attitude. We've just got to generate the attitude. And so this is one of the great advantages of doing so, one of the great benefits. So Nagarjuna, and I think this is from Precious Garland, where he names 8 benefits of cultivating love. So I'll just read them out and maybe just say a couple of words about a few of them, and then we'll look at another way of looking at the benefits of love. So here, Arya Nagarjuna says, although you are not liberated, you will attain the 8 good qualities of love. Gods and humans will be friendly, and even non-humans will protect you. You will have mental pleasures and many physical pleasures. Poison and weapons will not harm you. Effortlessly, you will attain your aims and be reborn in the world of Brahma. So there'll be a couple of things probably a little difficult to understand here. The most obvious one to me seems to be, the words like gods, world of Brahma. Non-humans, well, for me, I look at that and you go, well, animals, for instance. Animals really can pick up very quickly if you have a sense of love. And then they, like you say, they do, they protect you. And so, again, a little story. So, since I've come across the Buddhist teachings and practice them reasonably, what happens is you lose a lot of fear if you can generate love. So my brother and I, we've had bad experiences with birds. So especially in Australia, magpies, right? Like they attack you. And like I remember one time walking along and getting whacked in the side of the head. I didn't know what it was. I just thought, what? I'm looking around, there's nobody there, and I've got like this wolf on the, like, what the heck was that? It was the wing of a bird. Right? They come down and go, whoosh. So of course I got a bit angry and a bit scared too. And then I come to the teachings of the Buddha and went, okay, right. So the bird is scared too. Right? I've got to make sure the bird is not scared of me, then he won't attack me. Because I know myself, when I'm scared, I'm ready to defend myself, I'm ready to fight. So when I knew that, I thought, oh, when I go, I've got to be thinking about that bird. I've got to wish it to be happy, to have the causes of happiness. I've got to show the bird I'm not a threat. Well, since that, as I do, the birds don't do that. I mean, they walk along the fences and they watch me, you know, but I'm not attacked anymore. Whereas my brother, he doesn't have, he hasn't been influenced enough by the Buddhist teachings to take this attitude, right? So he still hates birds, and birds don't like him, right? So they still attack him. In fact, I've been at his house one day, and a bird flew straight into. We were sitting there, looking at the window, and a bird flew straight into the window. And of course, we go bang, and then it crashed down. It's like, geez, Then my brother says, "Oh, those bloody birds," and started complaining about the birds straight away. So I told him my experience, and it was like, nah. So I found, and especially dogs too. Like if you're actually sincere about uh, your approach to animals, they pick it up. If you come at them in a non-threatening way, that you're concerned, you care about them being happy. There's something happens. There's this wish is picked up somehow. Of course, yes, your mind is much, much better. Um, it says here, in terms of many physical pleasures, it says your health will improve. And so you will experience more physical pleasure. So we know how negative mental states can affect the health. It's the same with positive mental states. In fact, I remember a story about doctors saying it's not so much what doctors do, it's about what the person does, right, with their way of thinking. And so they have a good thinking, the body sort of heals itself. Whereas if you're sort of adversarial to the body, well, it's harder. There's a section down here called the Reborn in the World of Brahma. So from Geshe Jumper Tegchok, from that Practical Ethics and Profound Emptiness, one of the books I recommended, it said the word Brahma doesn't always refer to the god Brahma. Here, it refers to birth as a human or celestial being and experiencing the pleasures of that realm. In fact, one prayer says, please grant me the state of Brahma. So it's really talking about a mental state and not like an external physical God and realm. Finally, Geshe Soka says, if one practices love and is then reborn in samsara, as we have been, it will be in one of the higher rebirth realms. The Brahma realms are another name for the four limitless absorptions of the form realm. So some of you might be familiar with these states produced by great concentration. But the final Brahma refers to the highest state of Buddhahood. So here, Brahma is really referring to Buddhahood. Now, within the text, you often find a number of different ways presented of how to, in terms of benefits. So I'll go to like the Lamrim Chenmo, you might be taken off to the way of the Bodhisattva, or you might be taken off to some of Arya Nagarjuna's texts. And there are all different sort of lists of what the benefits are. So I thought I'll do this next one. So I think there's 9 of them here. So what we'll do is we're going to do a few of them and then pause. I'll open it up for any discussion, and then we'll do a brief meditation. Then we'll do the next 3, brief meditation. So the first benefit of being a person with love and kindness is that you will have less anger, jealousy, and arrogance, and resentment. So that your mind will be more peaceful. And I think this is should strike us as quite obvious, because if we're actually wishing for somebody to be happy and to have the causes for happiness, that's an actual sort of the opposite way of any of these ways of thinking, isn't it? Now, it was anger is a wish to really hurt them in some way. Jealousy is being like, they've got things that you want. You don't have it, you want them, and you're upset because they've got them. But if you have a sense of love and concern, love and kindness towards them, that's not going to happen. Nor is a sense of being better than them in terms of arrogance. Nor that when they are happy that you resent it. And so in each case here, love and kindness works against these types of afflictive mental states. So the second benefit is that you will refrain yourself from non-virtuous actions. And by doing so, your relationships with others does improve. So again, if we just look at the 10 non-virtuous actions of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, so those are actions based in fear, a lot of them. So you want to hurt somebody with your body. You want to take their possessions with your body. And with sexual misconduct, you're quite prepared to take the partners of others. You don't really care. You're just concerned with your own welfare. But loving kindness is saying, no, I'm concerned about your happiness. So if that's the case, you won't do this to people because this goes against that wish, right? Non-virtuous actions hurt others and they hurt you. So if you are, like I said, this sense of love, this wish that another be happy, you will naturally restrain yourself from these behaviors. And as I was saying before, the story with the birds, so people and animals feel comfortable around you. And so you're able to influence them to take a more positive direction in life. So again, another little story to illustrate this. So we had a little cat called Darling. He was like a bit of a wild cat. We found him he came off the street. And one day he wandered off to die. We never saw him again. And we're a little sad about that. And then one day I walked down the stairs and there's this little cat downstairs, really bones sticking out, not much hair on its body and really scared. And it was up against the wall, they sort of lean their bodies up and their backs arched and they're looking up like, what's going to happen now that it sees me? So I saw this little cat and, of course I was, so I went off, got him a thing of water because, we still had Darling's bowl. So I filled that up with water and put that out there. And there was still some food from the Darling had left, So we pulled that out. I gave him some food. And so each night I'd come down and he'd come out and then I'd fill up his water bowl and give him some food. And then Miffy says, oh, there's a stray cat. Don't feed the stray cat. And I go, oh, I've already done that. And I was like, no, you're so much better than me. We don't need another cat. And I thought, you have to look after these little animals when you see them suffering like that, don't we? Anyway, now he's our cat, And we gave a name called Sharipu. No, Beckinsale. We called this cat Beckinsale. And so we thought this, he's like our medicine, but he needed medicine too. So we called him Beckinsale. And like every time he hears that name, we know we're imprinting him with the medicine Buddha mantra. And we put down food and we water, and then we say mantras. And Miffy often walks them around the stupas, and then we get stupas and we bonk them on the head. So we're trying to lead these little sentient beings in a new direction.
Yes, so Eddie, I've got to interrupt here and just say, yeah, I totally failed the loving kindness test right there. And thank goodness you were feeding him in secret before I even knew, because I just like completely missed it.
Yeah, he's such a joy to us now, Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. I had another story, but I'll leave that one. Otherwise, you go story. So this is true. And, in terms of people, it's, you just put up barriers to people if you resent them and you feel fearful of them, when you're not comfortable, when you're not a person that they can feel comfortable around, there's a barrier. So there are people we care for. So we want to sort of lower these barriers. And love does that. Love is this concern for the other, a wish that the other have good things happen for them. So let's do a short meditation. And so we'll do a few more of these short meditations, and then we'll come up to this area where I'll stop and I'll open it up for more discussion just on these benefits that we've gone through. Okay. So please just adjust your body now, move around in your seat. If you feel quite comfortable in it, your back is straight and your shoulders are relaxed. And you're breathing normally and naturally. And you've heard about some of the benefits of having love and kindness, wishing others to be happy and to have its causes. Now, I want you to imagine that you yourself have no anger, no jealousy, no arrogance, and no resentment. What sort of person would you be? Because your mind is always at ease, imagine yourself being a person of peace, peaceful person. Being a peaceful person, I think it's very easy to imagine that you no longer engage in non-virtuous actions. So imagine what your relationships would be like with others. You can imagine that people would feel comfortable around you. You can imagine that animals would feel comfortable around you. just as they did with St. Francis. So imagine you could influence both people and animals to take a more positive direction in life. And having developed love and cultivated it, how do you think others would describe you? Would not others describe you as a friendly person, a trustworthy person, a lovely person? These are just a few of the benefits of having loving kindness. So if you appreciate these benefits, decide to cultivate loving kindness. And now breathing in through your nostrils, exhale through your mouth. Allow your eyes to flutter open and move your body in whichever way you'd like to. So we'll continue on looking at these benefits. So having loving kindness, you will naturally abstain from those 10 non-virtuous behaviors of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, harsh speech, idle speech, divisive speech, and lying. And you'll practice their opposites, the 10 virtues. Protecting others, not being stingy, but being generous, helping others in their relationships, speaking gently, speaking meaningfully, and so forth. And so whenever you, of course, when you do this, these become causes for really good rebirth states in the future. So while we are within samsara, I mean, I think probably the most fortunate rebirth you could take would be to be a human being with the leisure and opportunity to engage in the practice of Dharma again. So these, having love and kindness really helps us achieve that. So, thinking in the Christian tradition, and I think in the Muslim tradition too, there's a massive focus on love. In Buddhism, it's more on the compassion side, isn't it? But compassion is also just another expression of love. We find ourselves easily abstaining from the 10 non-virtuous behaviors and creating a wealth of causes for fortunate rebirths. Secondly, and you'll see this again and again, in fact, one of our students, her mother is presently dying, and she's going through this similar type thing, which is you die peacefully without regret or guilt. And you feel satisfied that you had a life well lived. So in fact, the woman I've just mentioned, from the perspective of marriages, it looks like this woman's a really gentle, caring, kind person, although she's had a very difficult marriage. And yet, even now, these last few days of her life, she is still concerned that her husband, who's a difficult man, will be cared for by her daughter and looked after. But she has no resentment towards him or anger towards him. She only wants him to be happy. So again, this is a wonderful way to go out of this world, eh? So, of course, love is one of the foundations for creating this mind called bodhicitta, the mind that wishes to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others. So we need this great love to enter the Mahayana path. Great love is just like a foundation for great compassion. So it really helps us attain the fully awakened state. So I'll just pause here. So you guys to sort of think, so what's been interesting about what you've heard? Does it go against anything that I've kept in my own way? Something changed? I'll just stop the share here, and anyone who wishes to speak, please raise your hand. Miffy, yes?
Uh, there's a couple of things. So one is that it seems that this practice of love makes it easy to be virtuous. So instead of like going, no, 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 don't do this, don't do that, it's like refraining from the 10 non-virtues is it's a natural result of having love. So it's like a much easier
Yeah.
thing to do to be a good person.
Yeah.
But also right at the very beginning when you said about one moment of love more important than like the 300 meals, and I was thinking that really struck me because the 300 meals is so much more tangible, especially for like homeless people. But I was thinking, it was like more, you were talking about the merit of it. I was also thinking like the the effect of it also, because if you don't have love, you can't live.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I don't know, like it was just unusual because you're saying about love from the point of view of you giving love rather than from the point of view of the benefit of it, because you're talking about the merit.
So yeah, but merit is beneficial, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's just struck me, it's kind of that the the benefit of it like is for us first
Mhm.
rather than the recipient.
Yeah. 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 That's right. And oftentimes this is the thing we often um, forget, don't focus. We're often looking outside of ourselves and thinking, oh,
Yeah.
there's where the benefit of it is. But in fact, yeah, there is benefit there. There's no doubt about it. But the greater benefit is back here, especially if it's love that drives you to offer, all the food.
Mm.
I mean, so the benefit, there's two lots of benefit, isn't there? The people benefit, the hungry benefit, but the mind does, which is the major thing. Yeah, so we know there's many people in this world who work in soup kitchens, for instance, who want to help the homeless and the hungry. That's their primary way of looking at it, isn't it? But for a Buddhist, it's not just these 300 people, but all sentient beings to attain enlightenment. That's a much bigger thing.
Mm. Liam.
Yeah, yeah. You got to, yep, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I really love the discussion, and on that about the soup kitchen. Um, so um, oh man, I just
That's
lost
okay.
it.
That's all right. You want to come back?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to think about it.
Yeah, no, we should, and that's good, Liam. Okay, so maybe we'll go on, then we'll do the meditation, and then we'll move on to the next three. So again, just adjust your posture, folks. Just get comfortable in your seat. This meditation won't take long. Again, you can close your eyes or keep them open. Take a couple of deep breaths. Breathe in deeply through the nostrils. Exhale forcefully through the mouth. Allow the space to open up. And do it once again. And now just let the mind settle and breathe normally and naturally. And imagine that you no longer have the 10 non-virtues. Instead, you possess 10 virtuous minds. Having these 10 virtuous minds, can you imagine how easily it would be to create a wealth of causes for fortunate rebirths? And having created this wealth of causes, imagine dying peacefully without regret or guilt. Everything being good. Imagine feeling satisfied that your life has been well lived. And now, how easy it is to leave this life. And if you have love, you can easily develop the mind of enlightenment into the Mahayana path and attain full awakening. So I wonder how others would see you then. Surely others would see you to be a safe person, someone trustworthy, someone lovely. Being so, decide to develop a mind of love and kindness, which is just the wish that others be happy and have its causes. And then cultivate this thought, meaning think it often. Think how easy that is to do. And then breathing in deeply through your nostrils. Exhale through your mouth. Let it all go. Breathe in again. And on the exhalation, just allow your eyes to open. Move your body. Feel at ease. So now we have the last three benefits. And I particularly like this one. And this particularly because of this picture I found. So it means that from now until awakening, you, meaning you and I, right, will be able to benefit countless sentient beings and lead them on the path. Now, I just love this picture of these two with their hands together going, they're looking at us, aren't they? If we can develop love and kindness, then we can do what they're doing, what they've been doing. So, while Rinpoche was here, it was love and compassion driving him all the time to benefit others. We might not end up being exactly like Rinpoche, but we can be a similitude of them, can't we? We can do something. Through our sense of love and concern, we can benefit others. We can share our understandings of what it means to be a spiritual person, what it means to approach a path, what it means to rely upon a teacher, and so forth. There's a lot we can do when we're driven by love. So these are two other benefits. So this great love and concern is a support for becoming an Arya Bodhisattva, being able to create a pure land where we attain full awakening. And so we establish this pure land where ordinary sentient beings can be born and thrive in the Dharma. Thirdly, something a bit like the same thing, by having single-pointed concentration on love and compassion, we will be able to travel to many pure lands and receive teachings from many Buddhas. It's also said that we'll also attain what they call 6 super knowledges. Again, 3 benefits. Let's do another, again, a very brief meditation. Again, just sitting comfortably in your seat. Make sure your back is straight and your shoulders are relaxed. You can close your eyes or keep them open. Now, I want you to imagine that you're at a Dharma center attending a class. This class is on love and kindness. And you've been listening, and then the teacher says to you, until your full awakening, you are going to be able to benefit countless sentient beings and lead them on the path. Just imagine hearing your teacher say that to you. What would you feel? And the teacher goes even further and says, one day you're going to become an Arya Bodhisattva. And when you are, you're going to be able to create pure lands. And you're going to help sentient beings arrive in those pure lands and take teachings. How would you feel? Now, to become an Arya Bodhisattva, we need to have a single pointed concentration. Wisdom, realizing selflessness. And these two need to be driven by love and compassion. So you imagine you have the love and compassion, that you've deeply concentrated the mind, you understand selflessness. But imagine we're going to travel to many, many different pure lands and to receive teachings from many of the Buddhas and the Arya Bodhisattvas. Now, wouldn't that be something? And again, these are just a few of the benefits of generating love and kindness. As it's not too difficult, decide to do so. And then again, breathing in deeply through your nostrils. Exhaling through your mouth. Allowing your eyes to flutter open. Moving about in your seat till you feel comfortable again. So now we come to the final part of our class. And here we're going to be talking about 5 different reasons that Nagarjuna put forward, which hopefully would sort of demonstrate the necessity for generating love for all sentient beings. So I'll put all of these on one slide and then we'll go through each one individually. So the first reason is that we and all sentient beings are equal in wanting happiness and not suffering. Let's focus a little focus on the equality of oneself and others. Secondly, it's important and possible to love other sentient beings because we have gone through the same experiences in samsara repeatedly and together. So this common experience will bring us close to one another. The third reason is that in limitless previous lives, we've been one another's parents and children. Fourthly, if we have any respect for the Buddha, we're trying to emulate him. So we follow his teachings. We want to have a body and a mind of a Buddha. Well, the Buddha sees all sentient beings as precious. If the Buddha sees the sentient beings as precious, we have to too. We should, if we're emulating the Buddha. We want to become a Buddha. And the last reason is that just as benefiting and harming our spiritual teachers brings happiness or suffering, respectfully, so does helping and harming other sentient beings. So you might remember that great quote, one of the verses in Shantideva's Bodhisattva's Way of Life, where it sort of said, so what sort of dharma is this that sentient beings practice when they're respectful and generous towards Buddhas, but not towards sentient beings? So when I read that one, I just was like, oh my God, that's right. That's what I do. It's like, oh Jesus, it's right, isn't it? You know, most of us behave so well to our teachers, don't we? Our spiritual mentors, right? We're on our best behavior. But when it comes to anyone else, it's like, forget about it. Right? Yeah. Anyway, let's go through these 5 and then we'll do again this meditation. So we're looking at first at our equality. So remember here that we are equal in wanting happiness and not suffering. So, I do this little exercise in the class and I turn around and ask everybody, anybody here want more suffering in their lives? And nobody puts their hand up. We're all the same, right? I think it just needs to be brought to our awareness and we need to remind ourselves of it because although this is the case, we often forget it, don't we? I mean, we often put ourselves first and the other second, so we're not equal there. And often the times our suffering seems much more important than another person's, and same with our happiness. So we always put ourselves above the other, in front of the other. So Nagarjuna says, I and all sentient beings are equal regarding happiness and suffering. Being equal regarding happiness and suffering, we are family. it's not right to completely abandon these beings yet enter nirvana. So nirvana here can be seen as like our own personal state of peace, right? But you know, like, and others find their own way. The second idea is our common experiences. So here, as we said before, we have repeatedly gone through the same experiences in samsara. If we could just remember this could bring us close to one another. So I've, sort of been thinking about this and thinking like on this side of the world, Shayla, we celebrate this thing called Anzac Day. And it's just a reminder of all the people who served in the First and Second World Wars, the wars that have been going on for the last 100 years. Right? So what you find is that these people who've have this common experience of being in a battle or in a war, they have something that those who have not been in, share. It keeps them together. Right? They feel a sense of comradeship towards one another. And this could be the same for us. You'll often see this also happens when people have had some sort of deep suffering. Perhaps you've been a woman who's lost her child. So you know what that feels like. And then oh my gosh, there's all these other women who have lost their children too. So you have a shared experience that bonds you. You can take sort of any type of suffering like that and go like, this is our family in suffering. We're the same. But it can also go across to the other side too, isn't it? Like, the great joys that you can experience in samsara, right? You talk to people, hey, have you ever gone skydiving? Have you ever done bungee jumping? Mm-hmm. And you find, yeah. So now you've got, you're the brotherhood of the bungee jumpers, right? That's good for you.
Or Eddie, when people share photos of their grandkids, so if you've both got grandkids, there's, as Shayla, that's right, there's this immediate joy you totally understand.
Yeah. And pets now to bring it up, isn't it? So you can find lots of shared or common experiences. And if we could just remind ourselves of that, then we see we are a family that wishes to be happy.
Eddie, just on that, I remember years ago hitchhiking with a bunch of friends, and so a couple of guys and a couple of girls, and this truck driver picked us up, and he was really nervous. He thought we were all going to mug him, and so we just immediately saw he had a picture of his grandkid on the dashboard, so immediately asked him about that and started talking about his kids, and he completely relaxed and went, oh yeah, okay, we've got this. We didn't have grandkids, but this thing in common.
Yeah.
And it realized we weren't going to mug him and he wasn't going to mug us.
Yeah. So I really liked, like I've never come across this sort of presentation before. So I really liked the sort of commentary, but also gives you room to think yourself about it, to go, what sort of common experiences do we share, and try to find those. So in relationship to that, Nagarjuna says, together with these beings, I experienced the sufferings of the unfortunate realms and all sorts of happiness of the higher realms, since we dwelt as one. I am fond of them. So the third reason, our familial relationships. So this really depends upon one's understanding of past and future lives. If you get your head around it, if you're not like a brand new newbie to the Buddha Dharma, and you read books like the ones that are in that sequence by the Dalai Lama and Venerable Thupten Chodron, there's really good material on there on how to get your head around limitless rebirths and how you exist throughout that continuum of rebirths. So His Holiness says, if you have accepted the notion of rebirth, or are at least open to it, it is not difficult to think that we have all been one another's relatives in previous lives and will be family in future lives as well. If rebirth is still difficult to imagine, it's fine to set it aside for the time being and come back to it later. And Nagarjuna says, not just once did I reside in every womb, nor is there a single sentient being who did not reside in my womb. Therefore, we are all family. So again, anything of interest there? Other, I mean, of course, there's the thing of the rebirth, which will take a bit of time to get your head around. Most of the times with the rebirth idea is finding out what you presently believe. Because that's where we go, no, it can't take, like you just can't get your head around it. And that's because you've already got a set of beliefs. So you've got to be sort of willing to challenge them, be sort of a bit more open-minded. Go, okay, well, it's just a belief I really don't know. If I really ask myself, do you know? You have to go, well, no, not really. I just don't believe it. So you go, okay, well, let's have a look what they say. If such a thing could exist, how? And that'll help you a great deal. As Rabini used to say, Venerable Rabini used to say, take it as a working hypothesis. Right? Like if you really ask yourself, our belief that it doesn't take place, it's impossible, it's just the belief. We don't know. So if you also might believe that it does take place, you go, well, how? If you can't explain how, again, it's just the belief. Now, Miffy.
No, I think Liam's got a question.
Okay, great. Liam, what have you got to say, mate?
No.
No, I didn't have one.
Okay. Is there anyone else? If not,
I was just wondering, so it's such a big thing, Eddie, the perspective of all the future lives, especially as beginners, how it's hard to connect it, because the most important things about love seem to really be about us and our world and creating harmony and trying to stop war, and yet the main emphasis here seems to be a much, much bigger picture. So how do we bridge those two things? Because that bigger picture sometimes feels just too far away.
Yeah, I think to do that, we've actually, what I would call like begin at the beginning, where you've got to ask yourself, what is this phenomena called mind, and who am I? How do I exist? So as Holiness said, gave a piece of advice about where Westerners should start in terms of the Dharma. He says, well, Westerners in general are quite well educated. So they should start with like the two truths. So the two truths deal with this phenomenon. One of them being, the ultimate nature of things. They go, okay, well, that might be a little difficult. But what about the conventional side of things? So okay, so we need to start there with the mind. But, phenomena, who am I? Who's the person? What is the mind? How do these phenomena exist? So we see that relationship there, and then suddenly the picture becomes very, very large. And you say, oh my gosh, I've just been thinking of one lifetime. My whole idea of who I am is just a person born in this life and dies in this life, and that's it. That's our natural way of looking at the world. Right? Of course, the Buddha Dharma challenges that. It opens the whole thing up. and says, yeah, what you thought, that's just an idea. If that were the case, then how would you explain these things that happen? And so we get a bigger picture. And that big picture really complements the smaller picture of just this life. It makes what we call just this life very, very valuable and meaningful. Because you put it into a larger perspective.
So does it make it actually easier then to generate love, this larger perspective, or does it make it harder?
Yeah, because if you look at if it's just this perspective, then our love is just tied up with attachment.
Right.
So then we have, we just have where we are. Lust, attachment, war, greed, all those things, they just stay right there because we're just looking at within a really small framework. If you enlarge the view, the framework, you have to be a bit more careful now. All right.
Yeah.
It doesn't just affect us now, it's going to affect us later. And it also helps explain why some of the things that happen to us now, which we don't have explanations for, can be explained once we open the picture up.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's we'll go back again and once again do a very short meditation. Okay, so again, just you're in the seat. Allow your shoulders to relax and your back to be straight. Perhaps take a rather deeper, more elongated breath in through the nostrils. And just let it all out. You're relaxed. Now allow the body to breathe itself. Feeling relaxed, imagine that you find yourself at a hospital in a ward of 30 people. So all of these 30 people, everyone is sick. Some of them are feeling sore, and some you can hear groaning. Now, while you are in that ward, imagine if the doctors and nurses all called out, "We can increase your suffering." Can you imagine anyone saying, "Yes, please. Hurt me some more"? But no one says that. No one says, "Hurt me more." Everyone in that ward is equal in not wanting suffering and wanting to be at ease, to be well. All beings are equal in this wish for happiness. All beings are equal in a wish to be free from suffering. Now, do you understand what samsara is? Well, its nature is to be unpleasant, painful. Its nature is described as suffering. But samsara is also impermanent, subject to change. And being without self, it is dependent. The samsara exists dependently, it is subject to change, and it's unpleasant. Nevertheless, while we are in samsara, it is possible for us to love one another. Because we have repeatedly gone through the same experiences. So imagine common experiences which bring us closer to one another. Imagine common experiences binding us close to one another. And then imagine that throughout limitless previous lives within samsara, we've been one another's children and parents. And remember the kindness we extended to one another then. We have been kind to one another again and again. Let's breathe in now. Exhale. Allow your eyes to flutter open. And come back to the screen. We've just got these two final reasons that Nagarjuna presents. The first being, which is actually our fourth, is that we wish to become enlightened to benefit others. The way to do that is to emulate what the Buddha did. So, as we have a respect and devotion for the Buddha, and he looks at all sentient beings as being really precious, well, we should too. We're trying to have the same outlook as the Buddha, to see the world through his eyes, through his teachings. He sees sentient beings as precious. So we should too. Nagarjuna's verse says, further, I am fond of the Buddha, as he worked hard for the sake of these sentient beings for a very long time. That too makes me fond of sentient beings.
Eddie, this is like asking what would the Buddha do, or what would Lama Zopa Rinpoche do, or how would they feel about this person?
Finally, and just following on from what Miffy said, just as benefiting and harming spiritual mentors brings happiness or suffering, respectively, so does helping and harming sentient beings. But it's the same thing, isn't it? You hurt a sentient being, or you hurt a teacher, you hurt yourself. So 3 lots of hurt, or 3 lots of benefit. So we are the same again. Again, Arya Nagarjuna says, in this way, since benefiting and harming are the respective causes of immeasurable happiness and suffering, sentient beings are also my gurus, my teachers. Because don't the teachers always tell us, don't harm sentient beings, right? Do your best not to hurt sentient beings. I mean, there's so much of it, isn't it? So much of the Buddhist teachings have to do with sentient beings. So in dependence upon these sentient beings, we learn stuff. We learn what to do and what not to do. So sentient beings are just like gurus, just like teachers. So again, a quick contemplation. Either close your eyes or keep them slightly open. Become relaxed in your chair. And imagine that you have respect and devotion for the Buddha. Now, why would that be? And imagine that you want to be not just like the Buddha, but to be a Buddha. And the Buddha sees us and every other sentient being to be very, very precious. So how should you see sentient beings? And recollecting or remembering that benefiting and harming our spiritual teachers brings happiness or suffering, so does helping and harming sentient beings. So what's the best thing to do? Again, exhale the breath. Allow your eyes to flutter open. And we're just going to finish off now with a final quote by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. So he says, in my own case, I meet many different people and regard all of them as my friends. In fact, he often calls us brothers and sisters. So this loving attitude brings me much inner peace, regardless of how others respond to my friendliness. So I remember being at a teaching with His Holiness, and the first time I heard him say brothers and sisters, that had a massive effect on my heart. I was just like, it was like, oh my God, we are. We are. But he had to sort of say it, until I knew it. So we've come to the end of our presentation for today. So we should be able to take something away from it. So the thing is, if we wish to have this immeasurable loving kindness, we definitely need equanimity as a foundation. So even though our classes are all focused on loving kindness, don't forget this. Otherwise, the mind will still be biased as much as we're saying, may you be happy. There are a lot of benefits of love. If we become familiar with them, we will want to be loving people. We will want to have those benefits for ourselves. And they're very easy. The technique for development is not difficult. Finally, we have these 5 reasons to be loving. So these slides will go up somewhere where you'll all have access to them. So if you forget, of course, they're there for you to have a look at. The other thing is there's always the book that I'll be primarily using week after week and showing to you. So if you want to sort of get more in depth, you can always buy that book. So next week, we'll talk about different types of happiness and more on love. But in the meantime, try and read anything you can about it, or go online and probably find some YouTube clips, something like that. Just become a little bit more familiar with it. So we've come to the end. We've been working quite hard. I hope no one's fallen asleep and the material's been really interesting to you. We've created merit. So let's take this merit, which doesn't truly exist, but it does exist in mere name. We're going to take it, let's aim it at Buddhahood for the benefit of ourselves and every other living being. And say along with me, due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the sorrows of the world. And Lama Rinpoche has gone away for a little while, but while he was here, he talked of great love and compassion. These were his driving forces. He wanted to help us. It'll be the same love and compassion that brings him back. So let's make this petition that he swiftly returns. In holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make this request. So we've come to the end of our class for Monday morning. We'll see you all again. Stay alive, love yourself, love one another, and let's keep going. Okay, bye-bye.